you know what to do. Hello and welcome to the New World Review, your source for everything anime and manga, and today it's time to dive right back into the deep and confusing sea that is the Nen power system of Hunter x Hunter. But quite specifically, we are going to be examining the intriguing subset of aura use that is a Nen curse. Now, what exactly is a Nen curse? Well, there is no strict definition, but it would appear to be a detrimental effect cast onto a target via the use of aura. Very vague, I know, but don't worry because this video is going to be explaining it in great detail, using the primary examples that the Hunter x Hunter world has to offer. Immediately though, I do need to draw a distinction specifically from the art of manipulation, because while a Nen curse is a use of aura meant to exert temporary or even a permanent effect on a target, this is not the same as a pure manipulation based use of Nen, such as the various types of mind control present in the series. That area is an entire subgenre of its own, and I think that the most valuable distinction is that a Nen curse does not allow its user to control their target, but rather inflict a condition upon them. And these curses may also come with conditions required for the affected individual to remove them as well. It's all very dependent on the desires of those who can craft them. And speaking of, it should be noted that Nen curses tend to spawn from a few select areas of the Nen ring, and most of the examples I'll be mentioning here either have their roots in conjuration or emission. And despite what I've just said, manipulation can also play a big part in crafting a curse Hatsu, but not in its pure form. It needs to be used in conjunction with either conjuration or emission. And assumedly, a specialist is also able to invoke an Nen curse if they so choose, but that's only because specialists are capable of literally anything. However, the areas of transmutation and enhancement are not equipped to produce a Nen curse effect. But let's stop talking in theory and take a look at our first example of a fine Nen curse, which comes to us in the form of Kurapika, and specifically the Judgment Chain Hatsu. Now this is the poster boy example of what I was talking about, because it was created utilizing conjuration, emission, and manipulation, effectively allowing Kurapika to pierce a target's body and wrap a chain with what's known as the Stake of Retribution around the target's heart. At this stage, Kurapika is then able to issue his target a rule, and if said rule is violated, then the stake will pierce their heart and instantly kill them. So immediately we can see that unlike pure manipulation, Kurapika does not have direct control of his target, he has merely imposed a restriction upon them. And for example, one of the more well-known uses was to set a rule on Uvogin that he had to answer Kurapika's questions truthfully. And Uvogin of course immediately broke this rule by refusing to answer, and thus the Nen curse took his life. And another more left field use of the Judgment Chain was actually Kurapika deciding to curse himself in regards to his Chain Jail ability specifically. Basically, Kurapika targeted himself and set a rule that his Chain Jail could only be used against members of the Phantom Troop. And once again, if he was to break that rule, then Judgment Chain, the curse, would kill him instantly. The desired effect though was to impose a condition on Chain Jail to make it more powerful overall. So there are definitely some interesting applications of self-cursing available in the realm of Nen, although they are exceedingly rare, even rarer than curses themselves. So these are absurdly powerful invocations of aura. However, I should also point out that making them as potent as the curse Kurapika created is very difficult. In his case, it required a great mastery of conjuration, manipulation, and emission to the best his abilities could possibly muster. And emission particularly needs to be noted because as a natural conjurer, that is Kurapika's exact opposite on the Nen ring, meaning that Kurapika has to invoke Emperor Time to access the appropriate level of emission to engage Judgment Chain, and of course Emperor Time severely reduces Kurapika's lifespan, so it's not a desirable state to turn to if he can avoid it. So what I'm trying to say here is that Nen curses as powerful are not something that is easily crafted, and they came at great cost to Kurapika. But that really is the thing about Nen curses. No matter how powerful they are, and in the case of Judgment Chain it's pretty damn powerful, they still do need to come at a balanced cost, which is quite a big price for Kurapika to pay. But to examine this a bit further, let's bring up Exhibit B, being Genthru, who we all remember or maybe don't remember as the primary antagonist of Greed Island, aka the Bomber. Well, his entire shtick was based on the idea of a curse in the form of his Hatsu known as Countdown. Now Genthru, like Kurapika, is a natural conjurer, and Countdown is formed through a combination of conjuration, emission, and manipulation. The holy trinity of curses. And as much as I don't like Genthru as a villain personally, you do need to give props to him for once again being able to effectively wield emission, which as a natural conjurer like Kurapika is by far his least proficient area. And not only that, he does so without some sort of OP technique like Emperor Time. In any case, Countdown is a bit more complicated than Judgment Chain, and the end goal is the guaranteed death of its target, rather than saddling them with a rule in fear of death. So basically, to activate Countdown, Genthru needs to touch his target while saying the word bomber. And to activate the bomb, he then needs to go on to explain both of his Nen abilities in full. One of those being Little Flower, which we aren't concerned with in this video. Oh, and also Genthru does not need to explain his abilities whilst touching a target. He just needs to touch them while saying the keyword bomber, and then he can explain his abilities at his leisure to activate the Countdown bomb. And after this is completed, a bomb is conjured within the target and a timer of 6,000 begins. 6,000 watts, you say? Well, it's 6,000 artificial units of something or other that directly correlates to the pulse of the victim. So the faster faster a person's heart rate, and therefore pulse, the faster the countdown occurs. And when it reaches 0, the bomb explodes, killing its target. And there is one further condition to the power that this curse grants, which is that the entire ability can be nullified if the target touches Genthru and states, "I caught the bomber." So unlike Judgment Chain, it is actually possible to remove this particular curse. You just need to do it within a certain amount of time. 6,000 miscellaneous units of time, that is. And another painful kicker for those targeted with the curse is that Genthru can actually detonate all of the bombs currently planted by touching his thumbs together with his henchman Sarbanbara and saying the word release. So that is some pretty damn impressive power on display with this curse, but in the end it subscribes to inflicting a target with a debilitating condition, as with all curses. And something quite similar to Countdown would actually appear later on in the manga, when Crawler Lucifer acquired an ability known as the Sun and the Moon, whereby he can mark targets with either a sun or a moon symbol, and then if a sun touches a moon, then it triggers an explosion. And this definitely fits the Nen curse category, because once again it imposes a condition upon a target. If the sun symbol you have imprinted on you touches a moon symbol, then you're going to be doing a bit of an explode there, buddy. And not only that, but it's also possible to brand someone with both a sun and a moon, meaning that they need to be incredibly careful of their own body parts touching. Rather annoyingly though, we don't know what particular brands of Nen are associated with this curse though, but I would strongly suggest that it is our 3 usual suspects. And at this point I should say that not all Nen curses need to be lethal, it just so happens that all the ones we've explored thus far are. However, I would like to now present to you a man named Knuckle and his Nen curse Hatsu known as Hakaware. Now unlike the other known curses we've examined thus far, Hakaware does not involve conjuration. In fact, this is a strict mixture of omission and manipulation, which makes a lot of sense because Knuckle is a natural emitter, and so conjuration is a far, far away dream for him. And essentially, Hakaware allows Knuckle to curse an opponent through the condition of landing a blow on them and lending a portion of his own aura. An adorable little mascot named APR then appears and applies the concept of compound interest to said loaned aura, requiring the target to pay back the aura in full, which would dispel the curse. However, every 10 seconds interest is applied, and if the number exceeds the quantity of aura possessed by the target, then they go quote-unquote bankrupt and are forced into a state of Zetsu for 30 days, which effectively means that they lose access to their aura. So this is an example of a more tame Nen curse, which really does suit Knuckles' softer and more forgiving personality. Not only that, but it's another example of a curse that actually allows the user an opportunity to get rid of it, much like Genthru's Countdown, although in both cases it is exceptionally difficult to meet that requirement. But that doesn't mean that curses like Kurapika's Judgment Chain are necessarily permanent, because Nen curses do have a natural adversary, being Nen Exorcists. Now granted, Nen Exorcists are very rare to find in this world, mostly because Nen is already a rare concept, and curses are a rarity even amongst that rare concept, so as a result there isn't exactly a massive call for users to get involved in exorcism style Hatsu, but there are a few, and probably the best known one would be Abengane, who was the man responsible for removing Kurapika's Judgment Chain, in the case where it was used on Chrollo, and the 2 rules were set, one that he could not use Nen, and the other being that he was not allowed to communicate with the other Phantom Troop members. And furthermore, Abengane was able to use his power to remove Genthru's Countdown Hatsu, so it's a nice little utility piece to have, kind of like a hard counter to all Nen curses. Because I mean, assumedly he would also be able to remove the sun and the moon as well as Hakaware, although as with everything else to do with Nen, it's not that simple, because every removal of a curse comes with a negative effect being imparted onto the exorcist in question. So for example, in Abengane's case, a Nen beast appears with the size and power based on the strength of the ability exercised that will linger and consume Abengane's Nen until either the user of the original ability dies, or Abengane satisfies the condition to disarm the original curse. So in the case of Genthru's Countdown, Abengane had to touch him and say, "I caught the bomber," to get rid of the beast that resulted from his exorcism. Now in regards to the case of removing Judgment Chain on Chrollo, well, this is a much more interesting example because, to be perfectly honest, we have no idea when Abengane performed this or what became of him after doing so, as Kurapika is still alive and there is no condition for Judgment Chain's removal other than breaking its rule and dying. So Abengane probably is not in a good state at the moment, to say the least. But before we dive too deeply into the world of exorcisms, because that really is a whole separate topic of its own, the final avenue of Nen curses I want to explore is that of a post-mortem Nen curse. Now I have a whole video on post-mortem Nen if you're keen to watch it, a link to which is in the description below. But if a creator of a Nen curse was to die, then chances are that curse would only become stronger. And to come back to Judgment Chain as an example once again, after Chrollo was affected by the Hatsu, the Phantom Troop just plain gave up on killing Kurapika, because his death more than likely would have resulted in Chrollo's curse becoming even greater and possibly killing him, or at the very least, becoming impossible to remove. And this can be an assumed application of all Nen curses, so long as the user of the curse passes away with the same feelings and intentions as when they inflicted it on their target. And for another interesting case of this, you could even argue that Neferpito's Terpsichore is a form of Nen curse that they inflicted upon upon themselves, commanding it to dance beyond its limits and thus leaving Pito's body cursed after death. Although as an unknown ability crafted by a specialist, we are unable to confirm what, if any, brands of Nen apply in the scenario. But that is the basic breakdown of Nen curses. Essentially, the infliction of a debilitating condition upon a target, and yes, that target can indeed be yourself if you so desire, which as we've seen is not unprecedented and can lead to great power. Nen curses are however very difficult to pull off because they often require a combination of emission and conjuration, which are opposite disciplines of the Nen Ring, but it is not impossible to reach that level or craft them from a form of emission and manipulation, which are much more friendly elements. But what do you guys think about Nen curses? Please do leave your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're keen for some more Hunter x Hunter content, then please do check out some of my other videos and even subscribe to the channel for regular Hunter x Hunter glory delivered straight to your YouTube feed. But for now, this has been the New World Review, and I'll see you next time.